Hi everyone. Right, so I'd like to do a few kind of guides for you to do with different vegetables. For instance, what families they come from, how to grow them, how I grow them, how to look after them, what varieties there are. And I want to start with something that I have been planting this time of year. It is November now in the UK, but I started planting this in October because last year I was a little late planting it, and it is this stuff. Garlic. Mwah. Love it, love it, love it. Do you hate garlic? Now, my father was Italian, and he hated garlic. You wouldn't believe it, would you? So Mum used to try and sneak it into, well, she did. She used to sneak it into everything. And Dad was none the wiser because maybe he actually secretly liked garlic. Yes, who knows? Anyhow, let's talk about garlic. So I grow my own garlic, and I started kind of growing it properly last year. Prior to that, I hadn't grown any garlic. I think I'd done it once and it wasn't very successful. But last year, I got a fantastic crop of garlic, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And by the way, did you know that 80% of the garlic grown worldwide is grown in China? It's quite a lot, really, isn't it? Unbelievable. Anyhow, so what's garlic? Garlic is a really close relative to onions, leeks, chives, and it also has some wild relations as well. And in particular, one which we absolutely love in this household is wild garlic, or ramsons as they're called. And this is the stuff that grows in the springtime. And it's very, very prolific in kind of woodland areas, especially here in Lincolnshire. It's mainly in woodland areas. It likes shade. It has to be quite moist, the ground as well. So I've got a little patch of wild garlic, and I have it on the side of the garden that doesn't really get a great deal of sun. And last year was its first year, and it did really well. It sends out, first of all, it sends out the leaves, which is like the delicacy of eating. It makes the best pesto. I also do garlic butter with it. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then it sends out this really pretty flower, a white flower as well, which is very similar to garlic chives, actually, the flower on garlic chives. There is another garlic that is an ornamental garlic that I actually have got over in my veggie pod. So I will show you what this garlic is also related to. Right, here it is in my veggie pod. And this stuff here, which I must say has grown really well this year, I was actually thinking of taking it out of the veggie pot, and I might, because it has done really well. When you go down here and have a look in the bottom here, let me just take away these bits and pieces. You can see I only had one of these bulbs this time last year, and now I've got quite a few, and it's doing really, really well. And this is variegated, as you can see. This here is called society garlic, and it's an ornamental. It throws up a spike as well, and it has a pink flower on it, and the flowers are actually delicious. It originates from South Africa, and it's really prolific over there. In fact, if the flower goes to seed, you will find that the seeds go absolutely everywhere, and this comes up all over the place. So that's another relation to garlic. Okay, I'm down under my passage under the house, and I'm here because of that's my garlic that I grew. And you're probably wondering, well, why do we bother growing it? when we can get garlic in the shops? Well, first of all, it's really, really easy to grow. It also is so fresh that when you grow your own, these bulbs here, and I mean, they're pretty massive, these bulbs, you can't compare them to what you get in the shops because you don't know how long they've been in there. And in actual fact, a lot of the time you get them and they then start sprouting. So you know that they've been in there for quite a while. They store really easy. So all I've done is I've put them on this kind of rack here, and they're storing really well, and we're getting through it very, very fast. Oh no, I'm not going to have enough for the winter, I don't think. You can also grow all different varieties. You don't have to just have one variety. There's lots, and I'll show you the varieties that I'm growing this year. Last year I grew 2 varieties, and this year I'm going to grow a lot more. You can grow them in containers as well as in the ground. So they're really, really versatile and really easy. I'll show you how to do that as well. And then after you've picked them, you can actually replant the next year. So you've got this steady growing season of garlic. That yellow thing behind me is is a hose, by the way. And you know, it's constant, absolutely constant. So the next thing I want to say is the best climate for garlic is actually climate here in this country. The only thing that you have to watch is that they don't get too wet, actually. And I'll talk about that when we come to pests and diseases. But the climate, you want a cool to warm kind of climate. It also does very, very well in heat, but there are a lot of different other varieties as well. The varieties that I grow are suited to the climate that we have here in the UK, and they need a frost, definitely. If you want these bulbs to turn into cloves, they need a frost, and then what the frost does, it enables the bulbs to separate into cloves. So that's why it's really important to have that as well. Right, okay, so now I want to talk about types of garlic. I've come inside because it's a bit windy outside, so it's a little bit noisy. And I just want to show you what types of garlic there are. There's kind of 2 types of garlic that we can grow and that we eat as well. The first one is called hardneck garlic, and it's called hardneck because I'm just getting mine here. There's the bulb, and there is this long stem that comes off it, and it is very, very hard. So I suppose if you think about it, it's the neck of the actual bulb of garlic, and it is extremely, extremely hard. I mean, you could probably virtually use this as a cane in the garden. Extremely hard. The bulbs are much smaller than what the other type of garlic, which is called soft neck garlic, and that is this one here. And as you can see, there's a big difference in the actual stem, the neck of it. But look at the difference in size of bulb. Can you see? Big difference. So yeah, that's the difference between the 2. So hardneck garlic, there are much fewer cloves inside this bulb. The cloves have a tendency, if you let them grow in the ground for a long period of time, they do get quite large, the cloves. And also these cloves are much easier to peel than these soft-necked garlic cloves as well. Taste, not a great deal of difference. That's to do with variety, which I'm going to talk about next. However, these you harvest later than soft necks. These harvest kind of mid-summer, I would say. That's what I did with these. But what happens with these is they store much longer. So you can get 12 months storage out of these. They're really, really good. Okay, soft neck varieties, you can get about 10 or 11 months. So, I mean, there's not great deal of difference in it, but they do store much better. So this stem, by the kind of mid-spring, you get this stem coming out. And I'm just going to show you what is at the end of it. very long. There you go. It's a flower. And a very, very pretty flower indeed. Now, what you can do is don't let it get to this actual flower stage, and you can snap off the stem wherever you want to snap it off actually. And what I recommend is snap it off where it is quite pliable and tender, and that then and then you've got this kind of little bulb at the top where the flower is in, and when it's really tight you can eat it, and that is called a scape, and they are very, very delicious. A lot of the chefs use them for cooking. You can use them in stir fries, you can steam them as well, you can roast them, and they're really, really delicious. And so what happens is you snap this off, get to the end of it, snap it off, and then the bulb grows bigger as a result. If you leave the flower on, it's going to affect the size of the bulb. There you go. Okay, so that's hardneck. I can't believe how long that is actually. I just picked that up from down the passage where I was a minute ago. So yeah, so that's hardneck garlic. I like it, but I like bigger garlic cloves, so I'm more go for the soft neck. So what is soft neck? Soft neck is this one. No flower on this one, folks. No flower at all. You do get large, obviously the bulbs are larger, and you get a much more differentiation in the cloves on these ones rather than this other one. And actually I might just show you, I'm just going to pull off some of this, I'm going to make a mess here on my table, but it doesn't really matter. And I'm going to just pull off this stem if I can. Oh yes, okay, so that's come off now, and I'm just going to put that back on the table. And I'm just going to show you these cloves. These cloves are actually quite big. Look, this is one clove. That's quite large actually for hardneck. And then this one, see how easy it is to pull that off? This you get more cloves, and this is a purple variety, even though it's not, it's only the outside skin is purple. There we go. That is the clove of that one, and that is the clove of that one. So pretty much the same, but like I said, on soft neck you get much more cloves. They don't store as well as the hard neck. They never make a flower stem, so you're never going to get what they call scapes from it. If you want scapes, then you're going to have to grow the hard neck. And also you harvest these in the early summer. These are the first ones that come, early summer. I've just got soil all over me. Yeah, so that's what happens with these. However, there is one more that I want to show you. And that is this massive thing. Now this is one clove, and this is called elephant garlic. And yeah, that's how big the clove is. Look at that. And look at that. That's the difference between the two. But this is actually not a garlic. It is called elephant garlic, but it is not a garlic. It is actually a leek in bulb form. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? It's fantastic when it's roasted. It is absolutely delicious. It has this very kind of mild flavor. Can't really smell it now. And it's very, very creamy as well. That is the beauty of elephant garlic. I'm going to show you the size yet again. They're massive. These you harvest again in midsummer, same as the hardneck garlic, and these make a flower stem. I had some in the garden this year. I put them in a little late, so they weren't really big. These are my new cloves that I'm going to actually plant this year. but they make a flower stem, and I had the flower stem, so I had the scape of these, and it was really, really delicious. So yes, so that are the types of garlic that you can get. Now I'm going to talk about what I grow here in the UK and what I'm going to grow this year. Righto. Okay, let's talk varieties. So last year I did two varieties. I did a hard neck and I did a soft neck garlic, and I planted them in my beds in the garden here at home. And as you saw, the hard neck variety, which was called, it was a French variety. I'm just trying to think of what it was called. Provence-Lautrec. It was something like that. I'm not growing it again this year because I didn't think the taste was great, and the bulbs were very, very hit and miss. So I don't really want, that's why I'm not really going to talk about that one. But the other one, which I showed you, which is down in my box here, was called Provence White, and that did really well. So I'm re-sowing that this year. However, so let's talk about flavor. I mean, really, for me, if you're going to grow garlic, it's great growing garlic because at least you know that there's not going to be any chemicals on it, and what they feed the garlic with as well can be a little bit dodgy. So that's fine. But of course, I want to do it for flavor. And the best flavor are two types of garlic from the Isle of Wight, which is like the home of garlic. One is called Solent White, and that is a soft neck variety. And the other one is called Mersey White as well. And I'm going to grow those this year. Now, I haven't got you a bulb of either of them because I've actually planted them over at the allotment, which I will show you. But what I have got left, I've got the bag that they came in. I have got left some very small cloves here. These are the really small ones. All the big ones I planted in the ground. And what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to plant these in pots and put them in my greenhouse over on the allotment. So I will show you how to do that because I said you can grow them in pots. Well, you can grow them in pots. And so those two varieties, Solent White and Mersey White, are my two soft necks that I'm going to do this year, as well as my own. I'm going to replant this one as well. This is the Provence White, and it did really, really well in the garden. So that's going in again. And that is the beauty about garlic bulbs. Now, the ones that I usually get are the ones that I buy from a supplier, because if you buy them from a supplier, you know that there's no, they don't spray a retardant on them. When you get garlic in stores, a lot of the time they spray a retardant on it, which stops them sprouting. It doesn't mean that you can't plant those. Of course you can plant those. The other thing is you don't know what kind of diseases are in there. So the suppliers that I get my garlic from, I know that they're coming from a great supplier. You're not going to get any problems with them. And I've had fantastic bulbs as well. So that's why. However, here's mine, and I'm going to replant that. So once you do start planting garlic, you can replant every year because obviously you know where it's come from. Let me just put that down. So that's that one. That's the Provence White. I am going to grow a hardneck, and this is quite an interesting one, this hardneck variety here that I've got in this bag. I'll show you that the bulbs are quite small. I've got 3 in fact. They're quite small. So if you check that out in comparison to that, there's a big difference, isn't there? But this here is a variety called Ducot. Would you believe it? And Ducot was originally grown in Canada. So it withstands really cool conditions, and it is a fantastic hardneck variety. And I'm just going to show you what I mean by, see this bit in the center? There's your hard neck. Whereas look at this. This is the soft. You don't get any of that palaver. So that's the difference again between the two. So yes, Ducot, that's what I'm going to do. One that I've got that's going in that's for an extra early garlic is called Early Purple White. They're a kind of purpley bulb. This is an extra one that I had, and this I'm thinking about, am I going to plant it over at the allotment? I think I'm going to put this in pots because I've already got quite a lot at the allotment already planted. So this one's going in. This is perfect to plant this time of year for autumn. And the only trouble about this one is because it's really early, it'll probably be ready in May. It doesn't keep for long. It doesn't really keep over winter. So you need to eat this as quick as possible and get it eaten by autumn because it will start sprouting. But you know, I mean, I use sprouting cloves of garlic sometimes. I don't really mind. And of course, the last one that I'm planting is my elephant garlic. They're the varieties that I'm going to plant. All right, okay, I think the next thing I'll do is I will take you out and I'll show you what I've done. Hi everyone, I've just come over to the allotment for a little bit. I've got a little bit of time because I just wanted to pick some celeriac. But what I wanted to do is, I thought while I'm here, I just want to see how my garlic is going. You usually assume that you can see how your garlic is going because you get these green leaves coming up. But I just wanted to show you how garlic works. You'll find that in the springtime it takes off like crazy and you get these lovely green leaves coming up. Everything grows very, very fast. But this time of the year, people get a little bit worried when they put it into the ground and nothing has happened. They see nothing on the surface. This is what I want to show you what's happening. So I've kind of dug around a clove just to see what's going on, and it's a perfect example of what is happening. So what's going to be happening is your plants are going to be developing roots first before they send up the leaves. It's like any other plant. Now I planted these are the Solent White, and I planted them 3 weeks ago, I would say. Yeah, 3 weeks ago. And I do no dig, so I'm just assuming that if you do no dig, then you don't have to worry about digging the earth and what they could call tilling the earth. And also with no dig, you don't have to worry about weeds as much. But if you are not doing no dig, if you're doing normal digging, you will have to weed quite a lot in between your rows. So make sure that you've got room for a hoe or something to go up in between rows. You're going to notice that by mid-spring, you will be seeing quite a lot of this dark green growth coming up from the garlic. If it's not, and you are a little bit worried about it, it won't hurt in, say, April for you to put a mulch on top of compost, or I would definitely put compost, and that will not only help the greenery come through and feed the bulbs, but what will also help is your next planting of whatever you're going to put in. And beetroot is a really good one to put in after garlic, so that will help as well. So I'm just going to show you with the camera exactly. Next to my big cauliflower that I have here, I was digging around this little fella here, and I'm going to actually dig it out to show you what's going on. I've got quite a lot of lovely worms here. Look, this is the benefit of no dig. You get lots of things happening. Okay. Oh, I can feel it's making crunching noises, and it's making crunching noises because, let's just take this off. Sorry, little fella. This is a very, very nice clove. Okay, look what's coming. There we are. So this is what happens first with garlic. I won't take all of the soil off. The Clove feels nice and hard. There you go. See that root system? Fabulous. Great root system. And that is what's going on underneath, and the smell is great. So I'm just going to put this back in again. There we are. I've planted my cloves about 4 or 5 inches apart this way, and in between rows I've given myself about 20 centimetres. Sorry about inches and centimetres, but I use both at the same time. I'm not one or the other. So there we are. That's what's going on with your garlic. Okay, right, here I am. We're going to talk now about sowing my garlic. I showed you a little bit on the allotment what I'd done over there, spacings, etc. I talked a little bit about putting it in when it's cold, but I'm going to reiterate that as well. For me, the best time to sow is autumn, because first of all, you're putting the cloves into warm soil. They get a good head start. You get larger and earlier harvests as well. And you get that cold business. So it needs to be below 0 for the bulbs to actually form really good cloves in garlic. I've tried, you can sow in the spring, but if you do, make sure that you do it quite early so you do still get that cold. I've probably said it before, and I'm going to say it again. It is really, really important. You need that cold weather. I did plant 1 year spring garlic. Well, it was not very nice, but I didn't really get that kind of clove formation. So, okay, so what do? We prepare the cloves, and I am going to show you, I've got some here from mine last year, and I will show you what I do. Okay, so this is the garlic that I grew last year that I showed you already. This is the Solent White, and one of the cloves has fallen off. So to prepare your bulbs, what you need to do is start taking off all this skin here, and you're going to see how many I got. This is a great variety, and I got some great bulbs on this. So, and this is what you end up with here. This funny looking thing, which obviously you know is a clove of garlic. And what I do is I take all the larger cloves off like this, and the smaller ones, I'm going to show you what I do with those. I plant those in pots, and there's one more here. Okay, so there we go. So yeah, the larger the bulb, larger the clove, the larger the bulb will be. What you're going to expect on how many cloves per bulb. Usually for softneck, you get about 8 to 10 cloves per bulb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I've got about a dozen per bulb. On the hardneck, you don't get as many. You get about 6 to 8 cloves per bulb as well. And then what I do is I just use a dibber like this. And I've prepared the soil, okay? So I do, obviously, I've said before, I do no dig, and these are actually in my raised beds. But over the road on the allotment, I also have no dig. I've started to do no dig, and eventually now the allotment will be completely no dig. Let me just come back up to me here. And so what I've done over there is all the pots that I had my tomatoes growing in, I took the tomato plants out, and all that compost, which is actually my compost from here at home, I spread a layer of compost on top of my no-dig beds. And that is really great when you're growing garlic, because also what you're doing is you're feeding the soil for next season. So I put about 2 inches of compost on top, and then I plant into that. So, and it's that when you do plant garlic, this is a perfect time to actually feed the soil for next year. And it's really good for your crops that are going to go in after the garlic. My last lot of crops I had over at the allotment were mainly brassicas and some beetroot. So when they came out, I put this compost on top, and then I planted into it. So let me just show you then how I do this. It's very scientific. Okay, so I've kind of worked out, I usually plant about 2 inches deep, and that's about 2 inches on this dibber. You can see that is where most of the soil is. And all I do is I make a hole, and then I use the dibber and I plant about 4 or 5 inches apart, and that's about that line or that line, depending on how generous I want to be. And I just do that, and there's my next hole. And then I just do that. These dibbers are great. And there's my next hole. It's as simple as that. Okay, so garlic, it goes in that way. Pointy bit at the top, bit at the bottom that had the roots, okay? Goes in, goes in, goes in, and then all you do is you just fill the holes. That's it. There's your garlic. Planted nicely. Lovely, 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 lovely. There we are. That's it. Now, a lot of people like to start their garlic off in modules or pots, and that's great. It's actually quite a good idea if you've still got a crop in the ground that you want to harvest, because it'll take about 6 weeks, maybe even 8 weeks, depending on the weather, for the garlic to form the roots and then sprout from the top. So that's good. I don't bother, because they are so easy and so reliable to grow in the ground. And like I said, the soil is really warm at this time of year as well. And you really have got until kind of end of November to plant garlic. But if you do want to start them off in modules or pots, start them off in something decent like a 3-inch pot, and just stick the garlic in there and they'll come up. You know, and then when you've harvested what you needed to harvest, you can put them in straight away and they've got a head start. So yeah, you can do that as well. Now I just want to show you how I plant them up in pots. Okay, here I am. And I just want to show you how I pot up the garlic. Container garlic is really, really good. Well, container anything's really good because you can move it. And so I'm going to do these in the greenhouse over at the allotment because I want an earlier crop, and I want a crop that doesn't have too much stuff on it, like rust and Allium Leaf Miner, etc., etc. So what I do is I get a pot that's about, and I'll show you here, that's my pot there. So this pot is 30 centimeters in diameter, and I do a mix. I always, when I usually pot things on, I usually do a mix of, I have multi-purpose here, and I also have a little bit of multi-purpose with John Innes, which just gives you a little bit more structure to the soil. And I have a tendency to mix both together. Sometimes I just have John Innes and I put that in with my multi-purpose because you just get that loamy base to it. So I'm going to fill this up more or less to the top. A little bit more multi-purpose here. Put that in. Looking very nice. Now in a pot this size, 30 centimeters, you can get 6 plants in here. No problem. All right, let's have a look. I'm going to get the smaller cloves off this. Oh, that's quite a large one still. This, you know, like I said, this Solent White is fantastic. And again, so what I do here is I'm just going to put them in like this just so that I can see what's going on. 1, 2, 3. I've got a few more in here. 4. Let's just space them out nicely. 4, 5, and I'll put one more. So we're going around in a kind of circle like that, and then shove them in. I'm going to put these a little bit deeper, maybe about 3 inches deep, because they don't really have to deal with a great deal of weather or anything, or cold or anything, because like I said, they are going to go in the greenhouse on the allotment. Let's take you back up to me again. Hello. That's it. Garlic. So obviously if you don't have a pot that's 30 centimetres, work it out. If you get a pot that's much smaller, just put a couple of cloves in and see what comes up. It is really good because you get much larger bulbs, and like I said, you don't have to deal with pests and diseases and all that kind of stuff, which I am going to cover. All right. So the main problem with garlic is this thing called Allium Leaf Miner. And it's not only garlic, it's any allium. Leeks, onions. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing to have. And thank goodness I've never had it, which is really good. But a lot of people have had this terrible, terrible thing. So what is it? It is a little fly that comes and lays eggs into your garlic, and then and it has 2 egg laying times. The first one happens in early spring, and then the next one is kind of mid to late autumn. What happens is they're like little white maggots, and you can find them in the foliage, in the stems, in the bulbs. They're all over the place. And then about 2 weeks after that, they become this kind of brown pupae. And then the pupae goes into the ground, the flies start, and it all happens again and again and again. The only way you can actually stop this allium leaf miner is you have to cover your alliums with mesh. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm finding nowadays I have to cover most things with mesh, and I'm talking things like veggie mesh, that really, really fine mesh. And so that is the only way. And really, you need to put the mesh on the ground before the stems start coming up, because they smell this garlic. So what I've done is, over the allotment, I've put the mesh onto the ground, and I haven't put anything, no hoops or anything. It's just sitting on the ground at the moment until the garlic starts coming up. And you saw in my previous video that I've just got roots on my garlic, so it can stay there until the garlic starts coming up. And the garlic will start pushing the mesh up anyhow. So, and then eventually I'll just put some hoops and we'll lift it all off. The next thing is a very similar critter, and it is called the Leek Moth. Again, any allium, it loves alliums. It works differently because it's like a little caterpillar. And so they bore into the garlic stems, and then this little caterpillar. Now, what happens is you can't see any damage at all, but then the stems start kind of flopping a little bit. Now, if you're lucky, you can see the hole where it's gone in, and sometimes you can get in there with a knife and take this moth out, this caterpillar out, and then it's okay. But again, if you put mesh on top of your alliums, you shouldn't really have this problem at all. The thing that I got last year, not bad, but I did get it, was rust. Now, rust is when you get these orange spots on the lower leaves of your garlic or onions as well. You can actually, when you see these orange spots, you can actually start taking the lower leaves off, and that will work to a certain extent. But the only way you can stop rust is you have to grow garlic undercover. So you'll have to grow it in a polytunnel, or like in the pots in the greenhouse, because rust works a little bit like blight. It's due to frequent rain and water on the leaves, and it's a fungus, and it works exactly like that. So I had a little bit of rust, but it didn't affect, thank God, it didn't affect my harvest, which was absolutely fantastic. And then the last thing, which I hope you never get, is white rot. And white rot is a fungal, again, it's another fungus. It's very specific to allium plants, so any allium, onions, leeks, garlic again. And it can exist in your soil for 5 to even 15 years. It sits dormant in the soil. So when you take over an allotment or a piece of land, you're not really going to know it's in there unless you grow alliums. What happens is this fungus, it kind of springs into life when the temperatures get to about 15 to 20 degrees, and it then becomes a persistent problem. You notice the damage, everything looks good on top, until what happens is your garlic starts flopping and starts falling, and the leaves start getting very, very yellow. And this is usually in kind of early summer. And then if you then pull the allium out, you will see that the root system is rotted, and when you smell it, it's rotten allium, which is it's quite sulfuric, not very nice smell. No dig. It can help to reduce the problem. If you're digging, you're actually digging the problem in. And what they suggest you do is leaving a gap of 3 to 5 years on that particular area. Do not grow alliums in there, and grow other things. And then hopefully after that period of time, the fungus has subsided. You can put your leaves and rust leaves as well onto the compost, as long as it's a nice hot compost. That will be fine, no problem. So that's all your kind of diseases and pests that you have with garlic. And what do you do after you've pulled your garlic out? What do we follow it with? That's what I'm always interested in. Any brassica is really, really good. And like I said, you can start interplanting as well. So if you've got beetroots in, that's great. You can put carrots, you can put dwarf French beans, that works really well. Any kind of chard is good, or radicchio is good as well. There you go. And that's your next lot of veg in the garden. So I hope you do grow garlic. It's really good fun, and even if you have like a pot on your windowsill, it's something. You'll see it's really, really addictive, and the end result is fabulous. After you finish garlic, you don't have to then put extra fertilizer on the ground or anything, because you've done that at the beginning of the season. You put your compost on for the garlic, or just stick it in your garden amongst your roses or amongst your flowers. It's a great thing. You've just got to stick the thing in the ground and see it come up, and enjoy your garlic, because it is quite special if you grow it yourself. So I hope you've enjoyed my very in-depth guide to garlic, and I hope you've still got time to put it in and start growing it. See you later.